My name is Maxine Clement. I'm 27, born in September, classic Virgo. I was born in Brampton. I've been exercising for about almost 3 years, since March 2018. And fitness is a big part of my life, and so is trying to be healthy and nutritional. And um, it's just, it's a lifestyle. It makes you who you are. Growing up, I never really had a word for who I thought that I was. I really only had negative representations. And a lot of trans people will say the same thing, where it was they grew up with Jerry Springer, Silence of the Lambs, just Ace Ventura, just very negative representations of what we didn't even know who we were. And then of course, by the time, when I was throughout high school and middle school, I was really trying to just suppress who I was. And it was tough because there were times I wanted to grow my hair out, or there was certain mannerisms that I really just had to bury deep down because I wasn't sure about it. I was afraid. I grew up in a very conservative family, and it was a very scary thing at the time, especially not to have doctors or scientists or just any positive, meaningful understanding of what it was. So I grew up very afraid of being ostracized, very afraid of being not accepted by my family, by my friends. And then by the time I got to university, that's when I really started to develop an understanding, vocabulary-wise, of what being transgender is. So at that point, that's when I started to come out to very close friends about how I was feeling. And through those close friends, I was able to slowly not just, accept myself, but gain the confidence and the courage to come out to my family and my other close friends and tell them about it. And then finally, I started hormones November 2016, and I've been on estrogen and testosterone blockers since November 2016. And it's not always been easy, right? There was still a lot of acceptance in my family, and I'm very lucky that I have my close friends and my close family that stood by me. I did of course lose some friends in the process, but I did get very lucky that my close family, immediate family, completely supports me, and they love me unconditionally. So that's a thing that not a lot of trans people have the luxury of having. So I just, of course, feel very blessed to have the support of the people that I love as well. And it was a transition for them as much as it was a transition for me personally. I, of course, wish I came out earlier. And of course, most trans people do wish they came out earlier. And most LGBT people wish that they came out earlier. But of course, we all have to go our own road, and we all have to go through our own process. And I understand that I wouldn't be who I am today without going through what I went through. So again, that's just me playing the cards that I've been dealt, right? And it just goes back to that, where it's I'm still lucky I got the opportunity, and I'm still lucky to be who I am, so that's really all that matters. So how did the process affect how my relationship with my body? It affected it significantly. Beforehand, I didn't take healthy eating or healthy lifestyle choices as much into account as I did after I started hormones. And that was almost just by nature of starting the hormone replacement treatment. Because beforehand, my metabolism was very quick. I was able to eat a lot of junk food, and I didn't really see a lot of an effect on my body. But then of course, afterwards, estrogen redistributes fat differently than testosterone. So I had to start, understanding what I'm putting in my body, why my body is reacting the way that it is, and just start to eat more nutritionally. And at that point, I started cooking more for myself. I started baking more for myself. I started to understand what certain foods are at their core, and what they're, good proteins, good acids, yada yada yada. So yeah, I think I actually consider myself to be very blessed, because I think a lot of people who do have fast metabolisms, they, don't, if they don't understand how to start cooking for themselves, then they never understand nutritional benefits before it's too late. Like they could be, in their middle age, like, mid 30s or 40s before the time that their metabolism really starts to slow down. And then it's like, you're at an extreme disadvantage if you don't understand how to cook and eat nutritionally. This is the thing about puberty, and I'll say this, and this is why it's especially tough for trans people, because trans people go through 2 puberties, right? They go through one puberty like when they're younger, and then a second one when they start hormones. So it's an extreme change on the body. But this is the beautiful part about the body, and this is the beautiful part about science. Like, it's weird to me that people consider lab-based estrogen to be an inauthentic form of an identity. They will say, because you don't produce your own estrogen or you don't produce your own testosterone, you're not a real man, you're not a real woman. But we wouldn't say that lab-grown meat or lab-grown diamonds aren't biologically, to their scientific core, they are identical to something that is grown naturally. It would be not scientifically accurate to say that a lab-grown diamond or a lab-grown meat itself is not scientifically the same as what the meat that it's trying to be or the diamond that they have grown, right? So I always just find that to be a very interesting analogy, at least for trans people, when it comes to the hormone treatment that we're on. It's like birth control too, right? Would you consider birth control to be fake estrogen, right? And it's still scientific, right? Chemically speaking, it is the same compound and that what your body produces, right? So I always just think it's very interesting, at least from an almost philosophical standpoint, why, the arguments that homophobes and transphobes use to justify their prejudice. I just find it very interesting why they think the way that they think. Because a lot of people, of course, equate gender to be the same thing as sex. And yeah, biological sex is also very muddled though. There's intersex people. There are people born with 2 X chromosomes and 1 Y. There's scientifically, it's all over the place. But of course, society has put us into these boxes, and that's just because it's easier for people, I guess. People don't like to be confused. They don't like to be scared. And I think, that's what kind of course, is leading prejudice. It's people that are afraid. And the person that I used to be versus I am now. It's a very kind of confusing thing for me, because on one hand, I am very different than who I used to be. On the other hand, I of course am still very similar who I used to be. Physically, of course, I'm very different. Mentally, I would say it's a little bit of both, right? I've grown up a lot in these years, and starting HRT, hormone replacement therapy, kind of forced me to grow up in a way that I don't think I would have grown up if I hadn't started that. It gave me a very different view of the world, both of who I was and who other people are, and just my lifestyle choices, right? The fact that I'm very active right now, and I'm trying to stay fit, and I'm trying to keep my body moving instead of sitting around all the time, which I did a lot of before I started hormones. So it's like yin and yang, right? I got a little bit of who I used to be, I got a little bit of who I am now, and it just has created this, mixture of 2 different people, and I'm now something completely new, I guess. But I like that we're always changing too. And I always look at it kind of from a scientific standpoint, that it's every 8 to 10 years that our cells are literally dying and being replaced completely. So 8 years ago or 10 years ago, the cells in your body were completely different than who you are now. Physically speaking, from a cellular standpoint, you are a different person than you were 8 to 10 years ago. But of course, internally, we're, our mentality. I mean, of course, I have body insecurities. I don't think you could ask any girl on the planet, and I don't think there would be a single one that could not answer, that there hadn't been one time or the other that they weren't uncomfortable with their body or uncomfortable with how they looked, or where they just said, I'm not happy with where my body is. And that can be both unhealthy and healthy. For me, yeah, it's my body. Sometimes I'm insecure about my voice, but it's a lot of just understanding you have to play the cards that you're dealt, and that can be very empowering, I think, to just being like owning what you have and just trying to just be the best that you can be. I think it's important to, have an understanding of what you want in your body. Like, it's perfectly okay to say, I'm not happy with where my body is at, and actively work to change it. That's still healthy too. But I think it's just everything to do with the mindset, right? And it's the understanding of sometimes your weight fluctuates, sometimes you bloat, sometimes your stomach gets bigger, sometimes you're thinner, but it's just accepting that and understanding why it's like that, and just understanding your body in general. And it's all about embracing your own uniqueness, right? Like, we're all different, and we should be happy that we all are our own little special, individually created concoctions, right? How comfortable do I feel in my own body? I would say I'm at 85 to 90%. I think that's like healthy for everybody though. I think, of course, before I started hormone treatments, like, it was like way different, right? Now I'm definitely a lot more comfortable in my own skin. And it's like every day, like, it's not like there aren't times where I'm like, oh, I'd love to be born like this, or, oh, I'd love to, I wish that I was born with what she has. But I still think that, every day it's just trying to be like, I want to be the best that I can be, right? And you can't do that if you're always wishing to be someone else. Fit bodies are viewed as more positive. But it depends on the culture, right? There are, of course, some cultures that are like, they value like thicker and bigger women because that is a sign of, especially like in history, right? That used to be a sign of wealth, and if you were thin, it was poverty. But yeah, of course, like, thin people are viewed more positively worldwide. Of course, thin people still get, body issues. There's still people that are trying to be like, oh, you're too thin, like, you should put on weight. So I think it's just, there's struggle for everybody. It's different for everybody. Everybody's different. From a standpoint of like a trans body, a trans femme body, that's a different question entirely, right? Because like worldwide, there's a little bit more negative views towards people that are trans femme, especially like there can be people in women's spaces that are not comfortable with trans femme people, and trans femme bodies in their spaces. So I think, yeah, like, it's a lot of me reconciling with that. But to me, it's still very positive. It's still very positive to have what I have and to be who I'm trying to be. So it's all about nutrition for me, right? But it's also all about balance. Like, I'm not, of course, like, I love to eat nutritionally, and I love, like, throughout the weeks, I'll like lower carbs, and like, it's not that I'm cutting carbs out entirely. It's just that I'm the type of person that I really do value like moderation, so, and balance. So like, I will still eat fatty foods, and I'll still eat sugary foods, but I'll try my damn hardest to account for that, like, with balancing that out with eating nutritionally throughout the week, or reducing the amount of sugars that I'm eating, if I've eaten a lot the day beforehand. So I would say, yeah, it's a lot about balance. It's about nutrition, and it's still about doing what you want. And if you like sugary foods and you like high fat foods, don't stop eating them. Just, understand in moderation. That's what counts. Yeah, I wake up, I try to wake up and work out, 5 to 6 times a week. Sometimes it's like 5 times, sometimes it's 4 times. It depends how active I'm trying to be, I guess, and it depends what I'm doing that week. Like, first, if I'm busy on a weekend, like, I'm gonna work out less on a weekend. And in general, like, I try to rest more on weekends. I try to relax more on weekends. Like, I'll relax like my diet. I'll eat more sugar, I'll eat more carbs, I'll eat more fatties. I'm trying to not be a person that is standing still all the time, right? Like, I'm even if I'm not, actually doing a workout, I'm still always trying to move that day. I'm still always trying to like keep my body moving, because like, I find that now I've formed the habit of working out so much, like, I'll feel worse about myself if I'm not moving. So like, you just moving around for me is like really important for like my mental health, like my physical well-being. And I've just noticed that after, of course, forming the habit of working out has really shown me like how much more energy I have, how much better like mentally I am, like if I'm moving more consistently throughout the week. So yeah, fitness is a big part of like my happiness now. So what would I tell my younger self? This is a really good question. And my answer was simply came from the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and it was simply, you're on your way. Just keep going.